right, Alejandro.
Hello. So, I guess continuing on our conversation last month, it seems to me, if I can make a criticism, that objectivism kind of doesn't acknowledge the role of luck in society. So, for example, if you say that you shouldn't tax someone to pay for, I guess, healthcare, isn't the only reason you can make that claim is because you were lucky in the first place and that you were lucky and now you're in a position to make that claim like you didn't get sick. And so it seems that kind of this the victims of this kind of biological coercion, how would you put it seems to be chosen on random when I think of society could be organized on reason, would choose it more, kind of distribute it more equally or something like that. Any comments?
Oh God. Biological coercion. I love that term. That is amazing. Biology has coerced you. That is bizarre, right? So coercion can only be inflicted by another human being. That is what coercion means. It means being coerced by a human being or a human institution. Biology doesn't coerce you. You are born with particular genes and DNA. That is true. That's not luck. Luck is a concept that does not apply to the distribution of your genes in your body. There's no lottery before you were born. There's no a blackjack table, or what do you call it, roulette wheel that determines your DNA. It just gets determined. Luck only applies once you're alive, once you have a particular DNA, and then you can be lucky or not lucky, whatever the hell that means. It's not even clear what that term means to human life. But your genes are what they are. You're born with them. That's it. That's the starting point. There is no starting point like what's his name? The Harvard professor, John Rawls. It has a starting point before you're born. There's no such thing as a starting point before you have an identity. Your identity starts from when you're born, so you have a particular genetic makeup. And then it's also true that you're born to particular parents. Okay, that's who you're born to. That's reality. It's not luck. It's just reality. It just is what it is. Some of us are born to good parents. Some of us are born to bad parents. It is what it is. And then, of course, it's what you make of all that. How you deal with the genes that you have and how you deal with the parents that you actually have that it will determine whether you're a good person or not good person, a bad person, even an evil person. So you get to make decisions about those kind of things. And some luck is involved in one's life, but luck is a tiny little fraction as compared to what you do with the talents, the reality that you have around you, how you handle it, how you deal with it. So, I don't. Metaphysically, there's no such thing out there as luck that applies to your particular DNA. It is what it is. This is the primacy of existence, according to Ayn Rand. Reality is what it is. Your reality, who you are, is just who you are. And now deal with it. Now deal with that reality. That's your job as a human being. And the fact that you were born with genes that are less good than mine does not give you any right to my stuff, does not give you any right to what I have done with my life, does not give you a right to coerce me, to use force against me. It does not give you a right to enslave me to whatever your needs happen to be. I'm an individual human being. You're an individual human being. We have different genetic makeup. Fine. Not only that, but if I indeed am more talented than you significantly, then you're a massive beneficiary of my talent. That is, my talent will produce goods that will, and all kinds of values, including, in Ayn Rand's case, a whole philosophy, that'll make your life better if you make the right kind of decisions about how to use it and how to apply it. This is Ayn Rand's whole idea of pyramid of ability. The people who are so-called unlucky with not so good genes massively benefit from the people who've made a good life for themselves, massively benefit from them, disproportionately so. So if we're all allowed to be free, that is, if you stop burdening the people with ability with all kinds of duties and constraints where people can coerce them in a variety of different ways, then you lose those benefits. You're actually, the weaker party is actually worse off. So, for example, right now, all the welfare beneficiaries over the last 50 years that have gotten welfare are worse off because they got welfare. They're worse off economically as compared to a world in which there's no welfare and a world in which producers are left free to produce. We are all so much richer, including the welfare recipients, because of the freedom the great producers have. So at every level, the argument is wrong. Let's see, I got some comments here. What were they? Yeah, I mean, the whole notion of luck is predicated on determinism, as if your genes determine who you are. The whole notion of, but it just doesn't metaphysically apply. There's no, random distribution beforehand. There is what it is. This particular sperm enters this particular egg.
Yaron,
Yeah.
how is this related to the proponents of equity saying that, people need to start out at the same place, or we need to like even out the starting
This is exactly the argument that John Rawls makes. He makes the argument that you are not morally or any other way responsible for your success because you're determined by your genes and you're determined by your environment, both of which you have no control over before you're born. And if you could make a decision before you're born on what kind of society you would want to be born into, because you don't know what parents you will have and what genes you will have, you will want to be born into an egalitarian society, a society in which the worse off are never made worse, because you might be one of those worse off. Now, there's so many things wrong with Rawls' analysis, but the primary thing that's wrong with Rawls' analysis, first of all, I don't think that's what you would make. That's the kind of decision you would make. But the worst thing about Rawls' analysis is it's metaphysically crazy, right? You're assuming we have a nature before we have a nature, before we exist, without any genes, without any environment, without anything, without any choices, without us being us, and yet we can make decisions beforehand. It's just the whole thing is a fantastical mind game. It's sophistry at its worst, and it is corrupted philosophy and moral thinking since he wrote that book. And Ayn Rand was unbelievably. Her article about Rawls is so spot on. It's almost scary how prophetic she was in terms of understanding the impact of that book would have on intellectual life. All right. Thanks, Alejandro. To be continued, I guess.